improve the overall effectiveness of your business policies, your business practices. Obviously, and you know this, consult with your attorney, your house counsels back home regarding the legality of any policy or procedures that you would ultimately change or adopt. With that, let's get into regulatory compliance hot topics, specifically emerging challenges and continuing attacks. I like to call this the Big Six, and there's more than six, but the Big Six, you'll find listed most of these in Hudson Cook's Car Law, the 8th edition, a good description of a number of these Big Six entities, as well as Gil Vanover's book, Compliance in a Digital World. And of course, that's been available to us since March of 2018, Automotive Compliance in a Digital World. So what are the Big Six? Finance sources, the Attorney General from our respective states, the Federal Trade Commission, the CFPB, the Department of Justice, and predatory litigators, commonly referred to by many people as the dark side. And of course, when we talk about predatory litigators, we're certainly not including the number of honorable lawyers, attorneys general, etc., who pursue truly unscrupulous businesses as well they should. With that, Dave Robertson, Executive Director of AFIP. Dave, you want to take these six on for us and share some thoughts as it relates to continuing challenges and regulatory compliance hot topics?
Well, thank you, Bob. You know, I'm going to talk today about biweekly payments and processing out-of-state transactions, and then you and I will visit a little bit when we get into the NADA issued bulletin. But now I'm sorry to say we've got to go to court. And I want to provide for the listeners a courtroom scenario that I see more often than not. Now, I want you to envision yourself as a person who's on the stand being examined, if you will, by the customer's attorney. So let's listen up. Let's do this quick scenario. Now, Jim, I see you've been in the business for 19 years. Is that correct? Yes, sir, I have. And how many contracts do you think you've disclosed in 19 years in working the F&I box? Installment sales contracts, vehicle service contracts, gap agreements. How many do you think you've disclosed? I don't know. I'm in a high-volume store. I could have disclosed probably 25,000 agreements. Well, and do you consider yourself an honest F&I manager? Yes, I do. And you've disclosed 25,000 contracts of various types. Good. Let me ask you a couple of questions. What's the right of rescission? I kind of knew that a long time ago, but I can't remember now. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do another one. What's an acceleration clause? You know what? I don't know what that one is either. So let me get this straight. You've disclosed thousands and thousands of contracts that you've never read or you don't understand. You couldn't be honest if you wanted to be. Now, let's think about this. At that point, he's going to turn to the jury, and you know what? You can kiss your beater's case goodbye.
Dave, let me just say, I'm having trouble hearing you well. It's like it's very garbled. It's like you're calling us from underwater in Puerto Rico, whatever. So just keep going. We'll see if this clears up. If not, I'll just take it from there. So go ahead, Dave.
All right. So the point is, you cannot disclose contracts you've never read or don't understand. Now, it's essential to know that the more you know, the more you know about the documents you're discussing, the more reasons you can give a customer to buy. And the more you know about the documents you're discussing, you can overcome objections. So maximizing each deal starts with in-depth knowledge about what you want the customer to buy. Now, if you think that's a make-believe situation, it is not. So do not, as a fair reminder, when you get off the phone, maybe start pulling out these contracts and reading what's on the back of those agreements to the point that you understand them. There's been some action lately about biweekly payment plans. And quite frankly, I see the future of F&I going to biweekly or weekly payments. Everything's electronic nowadays. It's as easy to do it as not. And incidentally, I'd rather quote a monthly payment at half the monthly amount when I'm discussing what a customer is going to have to pay. Now, one of the advantages of a biweekly payment plan is that you pay one extra monthly payment a year. But the true benefit of the biweekly payment plan is if the funding source will post as you send them in 2 monthly payments or 2 payments within a month, then you accelerate the reduction of the amount of the outstanding balance. And so you can pay off a 60-month installment sale agreement in about 4 years and 7 months. But that has turned out to be the Achilles heel on how many funding sources, if you send 2 payments in a month, will post them as they're received. Because if they only post those payments once a month, the only advantage you have is that you're making an extra 1 monthly payment a year. So if somebody is pitching you on the benefits of a biweekly payment plan, you better check with your funding sources to make certain that they'll post 2 payments within a 30-day period. Now, will we see...
Hey, Dave, I'll just take it. I know we're having technology challenges more than we normally have. But let's stay on this slide of the Big Six. I want to wrap this up with just a couple of things. Finance sources, they're directly under the umbrella of the CFPB. And one of the things that we see in these actions around the country, and, you read automotive news, you read the industry publications, whatever, and the sentences and that kind of thing for bank fraud. And what it really is credit application fraud. So when you think about this, it's referred to really by Dave Robertson, by Hudson Cook, by Gil Vanover and his automotive compliance in the digital world. It's the 5 key credit determinants. So in your dealerships, if you're falsifying information on a credit application, 5 key determinants, if you falsify the customer's income, if you falsify the customer's housing expense, if you falsify the customer's time on the job, if you falsify the customer's time at the residence, or if you falsify the customer's job type. For example, if I'm a greeter at Walmart and I'm applying for credit, I may not score very highly, and someone might change my job description to the assistant manager of the toy department. So I would score a little bit higher. The problem is that's bank fraud. You're falsifying the credit application, and the finance source has to report you. They have to report you to their regulating agency. In most cases, it's the Department of Justice. And the kicker about that is they cannot tell you that they've reported you. So if we're doing that in our stores, ladies and gentlemen, you're playing with fire. It's a recipe for disaster. So let's get off the credit application fraud and falsifying the 5 key credit determinants. One comment with respect to the CFPB, and of course Dave is not on site with me today, and the reason for the garbled, I could not understand him very well as well, but just a comment about the CFPB. And I didn't hear him say this. The CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, in their first 7 years of being in business, as it relates to customer restitution. And this is why, among other reasons, they're not going anywhere. They've awarded over $12 billion, that's B as in boy. They've awarded over $12 billion to consumers, nearly 30 million consumers as we speak, as it relates to misrepresentation, fraud, and unfair and deceptive acts and practices. And by the way, that $12 billion to over 30 million consumers doesn't include the July settlement with Equifax in the amount of $700 million. And you might remember with respect to that in the Equifax suit, that was not just the CFPB, but that also included the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. It also included 48 state attorneys general. It also included the District of Columbia, as well as Puerto Rico. So again, the big 6. People that we need to be concerned with. Some would say people that obviously are unscrupulous from some of the things that they do. But again, we've got to work smarter, not harder, as it relates to the emerging challenges and continuing attacks from these sources. Next, let's get into our industry standards and best practices to maximize deal profit as it relates to 3 areas of rate administration, payment quotes, and product sales. You see the NADA, NAMAD, and AIADA. NADA stands, of course, for the National Automobile Dealers Association. NAMAD is the National Association of Minority Auto Dealers. And number 3, AIADA is the American International Automobile Dealers Association. All three of those, NADA, NAMAD, and AIADA, especially NADA, with Paul Mitri, NADA's Vice President of Regulatory Affairs and Chief Counsel for Financial Services, has really published two publications, two bulletins, since starting in 2014 with the NADA Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program. So that gets into really our rate administration and also payment quotes, the Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program. That was a result of the settlements and litigation with a number of finance sources, the Ally, American Honda Finance, Fifth Third Bank, and Toyota Motor Credit Corporation. You might remember that. The dollar amounts in those ranged from $98 million down to over $21 million. But again, the charges were the same in all of them, engaging in an ongoing nationwide pattern or practice of discrimination against African Americans, Asian Americans, and Hispanics, and that they're being charged higher APRs than white customers with similar credit profiles. So NADA came with the Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program to address that. We'll look at one of their handouts with respect to that many of you I know are using, because this has been around since 2014. Hot off the press now, April and May of 2019, is NADA's Model Leadership Policy for Voluntary Protection Products. This really came as a result of Dave Robertson from AFIP and others telling us in March and April of this year that the CFPB was, as we say in Texas, where I live, fixing to launch their program to limit the profits from the sale of F&I products. We're not exactly sure what they're doing with that, although we know there are some things going on. But one of the things that we do know is happening with respect to that, directly from Paul Mitri talking about it at our agent summit just a few months back in Las Vegas, is that the House Financial Services Committee, chairperson, of course, is Maxine Waters. The House Financial Services Committee investigation on discrimination in auto finance and product sales is alive and well. Texas Congressman Al Green is the chairperson of that committee. So again, that's not going to go away. Paul Mitri authored both the Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program as well as the Model Leadership Policy for Voluntary Protection Products. I remember Paul talking at the Agent Summit, and he said, you know, among other things, when it comes to product sales, we're all concerned, I'm sure, with the answer to two how questions. And the how questions with respect to product sales are how many did we sell and how much did we make? How many did we sell and how much did we make? And there's nothing wrong with that. We're all tuned into our own personal radio station, WIIFM, which stands for What's in It for Me. How many did we sell and how much did he make? But also at the same time, what Paul Mitri said, and also what is written in the Model Leadership Policy for Voluntary Protection Products, which is an 18-page document, we better be concerned with the answer to four other how questions. And those four other how questions when it comes to product sales very significantly are, number one, how are they being offered? Number two, how are they being sold? Number three, how are they being disclosed? And number four, how are they being administered? And that means administered from the standpoint of refunds, claims, and cancellations. And then again, Paul Mitri, we can contact him directly at NADA, Vice President of Regulatory Affairs and Chief Counsel for Financial Services. So rate administration, payment quotes, and product sales. By the way, let me just share with you that both of these publications have 18 pages, so it's a short read, but thousands of dealerships are on the Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program. Certainly less than that number are on the Model Leadership Policy for Voluntary Protection Products, because really that's only 5 or 6 months old. Next, let's take a look at from the Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program 2014, the Dealer Participation Certification Form. A number of you are familiar with this because you're utilizing this. I'm told that all the public companies in America have adopted that, but we'll see. But basically, this just takes all the guesswork out of people saying that there's discrimination as it relates to rate quotes. The Dealer Participation Certification Form. You drop down 3 lines and you see where it says Standard Dealer Participation Rate. So whatever you decide with, let's say that that's 2 points above the buy rate, you would plug in that 2 points. The final dealer participation rate, if that's 2 points, meaning it hasn't reduced or gone down, there's nothing to do as far as checking the boxes down the left-hand corner. However, The next paragraph, if the final dealership participation rate does not equal the standard rate participation box, check the allowable deviation box below and fill in the corresponding blanks. Now, you'll notice that there's 7 boxes there that you can check. We're not going to take the time to go through all 7 of these, but in many instances, more than one box is checked, especially number 1, dealer participation limited by finance source, and number 2, customer stated a monthly payment constraint of X amount of dollars. You can check more than one box. Also very interesting with this from a standpoint of security for us, from a dealership standpoint, is that all 7 of these allowable reasons have already been approved by the Department of Justice, the DOJ. And that involves cases really that Dave Robertson and AFIP were on as expert witness and also training. And that had to do with 2 cases the DOJ brought against Ford stores in Pennsylvania in 2007. So the dealer participation certification form goes in the deal jacket on every deal, and we know since 2014 that many of our finance sources are requesting that in the deal file, the deal jacket as well. So if you're ever challenged as it relates to rate administration, this can save you. Obviously, consult with your attorney, your house counsel regarding putting this together if you haven't done so. Next, we want to move to the NADA model dealership policy for voluntary protection products. This is an 18-page document. 14 of the 18 pages are how-to. 4 pages are actually the policy itself, and then you also have 2 appendices as it relates to putting this together. One of the 2 appendices is what's printed here, and the NADA program says that this poster, this policy, will be prominently displayed within clear view of prospective customers in the dealership. And again, you'll find this on page 15 of this model dealership policy for voluntary protection products. Notice once again how this reads. Harkins Honda, my dealership, offers vehicle service contracts and other voluntary products that are designed to protect your investment and the vehicle you purchase or lease from us. The purchase of any of these voluntary protection products is completely optional and is not required to purchase or lease a vehicle or obtain warranty coverage, financing on particular terms, or any other product or service offered by the dealership. Finally, Harkins Honda is fully committed to providing you the price, terms, and conditions of each voluntary protection product before you decide to purchase it. So I know we can't bring Dave back in from the standpoint of just technology, but one of the things that he was going to say about this is that this year's chairman, NADA chairman, his name is Charlie Gilchrist, has dealer stores and group in Texas. Dave has visited that store recently as far as AFIP certification. Obviously, Charlie's stores are on this program, and he gives a ranking endorsement of what this program has done to his organization. So any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, I'm sure Charlie Gilchrist out in Texas would be happy to hear from you. Again, the NADA Voluntary Protection Products Policy, a poster prominently displayed in clear view of prospective customers. And I know in Charlie's stores, he displays this poster in the F&I office themselves. Next, let's again talk about the NADA Model Dealership Policy for Voluntary Protection Products as it relates to the certification form. Unlike the Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program, where we had 7 boxes or things to consider checking, now we have 5 allowable discounts if we drop the price from the standard price to the selling price. So basically what this allows the dealer to do, and the request is, and the NADA word is the dealership will. The dealership will establish the standard retail price for all of their products and services. So the bottom line is, after we set that standard retail price individually for all of our products and services, or individual bundles, if we're into bundling, and if you read the NADA booklet, they certainly approve and talk very positively about the positive bundles. So if the standard retail price and the selling price are the same, we really don't have to complete this form. So this form is to be completed only if you discount the standard retail price. So without reading all the boxes at the top, let's just take a quick look at the 5 allowable discounts that are set by NADA, NAMAD, and also AIADA. What's discount number 1? The VPP, Voluntary Protection Product, limited by pricing, limited by pricing or payment cap. Number 2, customer stated monthly payment constraint. Number 3, customer stated competing offer. Number 4, customer qualified for dealership promotional VPP campaign. And number 5, customer qualified for dealership employee incentive program. So you go back to the grid at the top, and you'll see the fourth and fifth boxes over. If the selling price is less than the retail price, enter the number of the allowable discount from the list below. And number 2, if discount 2 is selected, enter the amount of the monthly payment constraint. And then number 3, if discount 3 is selected, enter the name of the competing offeror and the price of the competing offer. It's a little bit more in depth. But once again, the NADA recommendation is this is completed only and put in the deal jacket if you discount the standard retail price and reduce it to the selling price in your store, in your dealership. Let's get into next, finally, our third topic or objective today, which is menu telling and menu selling. What a great topic to talk about, menu selling and menu telling. We believe at the American Guardian Group of Companies, American Guardian Warranty Services University, our training classes, the 4 instructors that we have working with people that come to class, includes myself, also our VP of Sales. His name is Chuck Hobbs. I think Chuck is on this call. We have internal people talking to every group as well. But we believe from a priority standpoint that the first step for every dealership with agent commitment and support, whatever, is to develop and commit to developing and committing to both a mission and value statement. So develop and commit to both mission and value statements. The mission statement that we suggest and share with our agent partners and dealer clients around the country is really very simple. And that is, every customer knows what they're getting, they agree to buy it, they know why they need it, and they feel good about it, and they feel good about it when they leave the dealership. Think about that. That's pretty good. That actually came from a dealer group a number of years ago out in Portland, Oregon, and it's excellent. It's tested in hundreds of stores right now around the country as a mission statement. Every customer knows what they're getting, they agree to buy it, they know why they need it, and they feel good about it when they leave the dealership. You know, folks, when you think about it, just from that mission statement, if we do develop it and we're committed to it, the results of that can be tremendous. I mean, not only success in sales and F&I, but also success for ourselves and our families, success for our respective dealerships, our agents, the product providers, and just everyone involved in the transaction. And obviously, it's a win-win for the customer as well. Now, the value statement has to do with what we recommend and endorse and teach as it relates to the American Guardian Group of Companies and American Guardian Warranty Services University. So what is our value statement? Very simply, it is this. We endorse and teach. We endorse and teach the industry standard and best practices that are recommended by NADA, AFIP, the Association of Financial Insurance Professionals, and our internal American Guardian Group of Companies Seller Code of Conduct for retail sales. So again, the NADA programs are the two that we just briefly looked at. The Fair Credit Compliance Policy and Program, and the Model Dealership Policy for voluntary protection products. The AFIP program, several things to relate to there, is obviously looking at and making a commitment to develop and implement best practices that address AFIP's 7 deadly sins of F&I. Recently updated by AFIP, the 7 deadly sins of F&I, the 7 most common errors that cause dealers to become the targets of bad things. Those bad things are media exposés, class action lawsuits, and high-dollar regulatory fines. If we could hear Dave, he would say something like this. It doesn't take, folks, all 7 of these things to take you down. It takes just one. If any one of them becomes a pattern or practice in your store negatively, you're guaranteeing yourself a class action lawsuit. So developing and implementing best practices that address the 7 deadly sins of F&I. But also ASIP certification, and with ASIP certification, the almost 60,000 people in the past, since 1989, that have been certified, committing to the AFIP Code of Ethics, and the AFIP Code of Ethics, the Personal Code of Ethical Conduct, is now up to 10 canons. 10 canons. For those of you that deal with us, the American Guardian Group of Companies, through our agents, our vice presidents of sale, both Chuck Hobbs and John Rube, okay, as well as our agents around the country, are armed with our Seller Code of Conduct for retail sales. What that is really 11 statements, and 10 of the 11 statements start with seller shall, and one of the 11 starts with seller must. So if you're marketing our products and services and you haven't seen the AGWS, American Guardian Group of Companies Seller Code of Conduct for Retail Sales, ask your agent, ask our Assistant to Vice President, AVP, or our Vice Presidents of Sales, both Chuck Hobbs and John Rube, and they can supply you with that information. So we endorse and teach the industry standard of best practices recommended by NADA, AFIP, as well as our internal Seller Code of Conduct for retail sales. Next, let's talk about successful menu selling begins with menu telling. You talk about a rapid change or departure from how I taught this 100 years ago when I first got into training F&I people back in the dark ages of 1976 and still through today. You know, we used to say things like telling is not selling. For my first 13 years with Ryan and Director of Training with them from 86 to 89 and being Director of Training with EFC companies for 13 years, we would say that, hey, no telling, just selling. In fact, we used to show a 30-minute film. It was called Telling is Not Selling, and it was a British film that got into just, again, why telling is not selling. But times change and things change. And what we believe, what I've learned, is that selling, the first time through that menu process, does a lot of bad things. And the worst thing it does, it just creates more resistance to products and makes objection handling much more difficult. So what are we saying here? Successful menu selling begins with menu telling. It's a process based on telling and helping instead of initially selling. So we're presenting our optional voluntary protection products. So there's 3 key words that go with this. We tell the customer what the product is, we tell the customer what the product does, and we tell them what that means to them from the standpoint of personal and developing an emotional relationship with the product itself. Those of you that subscribe to Automotive News, and many of you do, even if you don't, probably somebody in your dealership does, I would encourage you to pull out the Automotive News of September 19th, this year, 2019, and there's a segment in there about F&I training, F&I selling, customer responses, using scripts, using planned speeches and presentations, things like that I've taught for 100 years. How many miles a year do you drive? How long do you plan to keep your new car? Might those driving habits change? Did your salesperson happen to discuss the manufacturer's limited warranty on your new vehicle? What is your understanding of that manufacturer's limited warranty? We're learning that may not necessarily be the best way to go with today's customer. And that is, it's just, they've changed. And we can tell you that a number of our stores, and I was just in one recently, a large RV store in Virginia, and there's certainly many others as well, their whole 5-step technique to presenting F&I products, and this may or may not work for you, but I'm saying just consider it. Their whole 5 steps to the sale is, number 1, tell them what the product is. Number 2, tell them what the product does. Tell them, number 3, what that means to you. Tell them, number 4, the cost involved, and number 5, ask a closing question or a trial close. It shortens the presentation. The interesting thing about this, if you read the Automotive News article, it gets into time. You know, we reported in a previous webinar this year from J.D. Power and Associates that to sell a new car and go through the F&I process is 187 minutes. I'm not real good at math, but that's north of 3 hours. The downside of that really is that among that 187 minutes, if you were on that webinar, 32 minutes of downtime is just a wait to get into F&I. So what's the customer doing? Are they viewing a tablet? Are they looking at our products? Are they reading a magazine? What's going on during that downtime? And really, what are we doing in our office if they can see us when nobody's in there? So preparation, it's like from a customer standpoint, here we go again. Here we go again. So think about that time. Now, the great thing about this article, the pages in the September 9th issue, another amount of time was just disclosed by J.D. Power and Associates. So we have the 187 and 32, but also from J.D. Power, they informed us that the average time spent on F&I is 41 minutes. The average time spent on F&I is 41 minutes. So if you got 41 minutes average time spent on F&I, 32 minutes average time waiting to get in there, then the whole thing is 187 minutes on average. You can see where I'm going with this. from a standpoint of customers, repeat referral business, and CSI. The fundamental premise, the bullet point there at the bottom, I'm not a good reader, not an avid reader, but I do like Stephen Covey. And one of the things that Stephen Covey says, when it comes to success in business, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. I love that. When it comes to success in business, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Well, what's your main thing with respect to F&I? Is it how many did we sell, how much did we make, or is it some of the other hows? I would suggest to you that the fundamental premise that's listed here should be your main thing. And here it is. The fundamental premise is that F&I is about helping customers make an informed decision about the optional voluntary protection products that are available to them in connection with their purchase. The premise is that F&I is about helping customers make an informed decision about the optional voluntary protection products that are available to them in connection with their purchase. So maybe to accomplish this, think about it. Ask yourself, refocus, recommit, reassess. That was the title of our first webinar at the beginning of this year. Reassess what our fundamental premise is as it relates to selling our products and services. And I would share with you, instead of saying, and maybe we've taught this for too long, instead of saying when it relates to product sales, instead of saying I have products, how can I sell them to my customers? Maybe a better approach would be something like this. A new way of thinking might be, I have customers, how can my products help them? I have customers, how can my products help them? So it's your choice to make. Where are you at from a focus standpoint? I have these products, how can I sell them? Or number two, we have all these customers, how can my products help them as it relates to maximizing deal profit the right way? And that is in a manner that's consistent with good customer relations and sound business practices. 5 key ideas. This has to do with menu introductions. 5 key ideas. We know it works. If you haven't tried it, you're not happy with your performance right now, give this a shot. 5 key ideas. Number 1 is to introduce the menu properly. We're going to see that in a subsequent slide. Introduce the menu properly. 3 things we're trying to do there. Low key, downstream, non-confrontational, meaning you're flowing with the customer's opinions and remarks. We're trying to initiate a conversation as we present options. Number 2, eliminate 5 negative trigger words. Eliminate 5 negative trigger words. I remember when I first heard this from dealer groups around the country, I was saying, that's not me, we can't do that because I've never taught it before. Then I learned that it's working in some of the biggest dealerships around the country. And that is, these 5 words are not bad words when it comes to a product presentation or perhaps objection handling or value-added objection handling. What we're recommending is when it comes to the menu introduction itself, you eliminate these 5 negative trigger words. And what are they? Services, coverages, features, benefits, and programs. Why? It sounds like, here we go again, you're just trying to sell me all this stuff. Recommendation number 3 is use the key phrase. And the key phrase comes from the NADA Model Dealership Policy, Voluntary Protection Products and Program. You will verbally use the word optional. That's their you will, not mine, although we endorse it. And then number 2, we refer to the products not as ancillary products and services, not as add-on this, not as add-on that, not as our protected payment plan and all that kind of stuff we've done in the past, but the NADA recommendation, again, Hudson Cook endorses it, AFIP and others, we refer to the products as VPPs. So we're going to use the phrase optional voluntary protection products. Number 4, stop selling the first time through the menu. The first time through is to tell. Stop selling and start offering options. And we do that by offering options that offer opportunity to customize. Many of you that have come to our class, and I've been in a number of stores for the past 3.5 or 4 years, it's really when I began to see a change from a production standpoint when stores gave a single column menu a try or a go, as opposed to a 3, 4, or 5 column menu. It does a lot of things. It eliminates the redundancy. It eliminates the customer thinking, well, what are you going to do? Obviously, you're trying to sell me everything on this page. Some people don't count real quickly until we tell them. Maybe we're only having 5 products, is part of our unique financial package, but we've got 4 columns: platinum, gold, silver, and customer. So, platinum, gold, silver, bronze, or whatever. But one column has 5, another column has 4, another column has 3, another column has 2. So to a customer, what is that? 12 products or whatever that total amount is. They don't know until we tell them it's only 5. But 5 and 4 is 9, and 3 is 12, and 2 is 14. They think we're offering them 14 products. So why have that working against you? Single column menu, unique financial package, and then a blank custom column next to the single column menu with our product offerings, in order that we can customize a plan that relates to the customer's driving habits and ownership experiences. And finally, certainly last but not least, committing ourselves to the 3 C's. What are the 3 C's? Compliance, completeness, and consistency. That 20-word presentation, menu introduction, recommendation for you. Here's this one word. It's not 2. So this makes this 20 words. Folks, here's a menu breakdown. Here's a menu breakdown of your optional voluntary protection products that are available to protect your credit and your investment. It works. We know it works. Give it a shot. Folks, here's a menu breakdown of your optional voluntary protection products that are available to protect your credit and your investment. When do you verbalize this? Immediately after the customer initials the base payment on the presentation page of your 2-page menu. So you memorialize the sale, you go through the figures again from the standpoint of the amount financed, the truth in lending amount financed term. You show the customer the payment, the term of 72 months, the annual percentage rate of 5%, and your payment's $450.92. Folks, need your initial right here, if you would, just to confirm and certify that you can take delivery of your vehicle for $450.92. That does a lot of things for us, But then after we do that, the menu introduction. Folks, here's the menu breakdown of your optional voluntary protection products that are available to protect your credit and your investment. Next, and our last slide, menu telling and menu selling. To wrap it up, I believe that the most important piece of paper or digital document in a deal file is a properly executed menu. And the key or operative phrase in that statement are the last 3 words: a properly executed menu. Why? If a properly executed menu, why? It confirms that the dealership was transparent, meaning clearly seen, easily understood during the sale of F&I products or services. So you think about this, we tie this back into our sales class always with the 3 questions that are on the mind of every customer when they come into F&I. And those are 3 questions that they will never ask you outwardly, but we know that they're thinking about it inwardly. And you know what they are. What are they? Question number 1, can I trust you? Can I trust you? Question number 2, are you credible? Are you credible? Question number 3, do you care? Do you care about me, my needs and situation? And quite frankly, we call it the 3 questions on the mind of every customer. Can I trust you? Are you credible? Do you care? I really think there's a 4th question. And that 4th question is maybe more deadly than the other 3. And that is this person, are they really trying to help me? Are they really trying to help me? Or are they just trying to sell me something? Why have that work against us? Why have that work against us? So a properly executed menu can change the game with that. So look at the information on the right-hand side. Properly executed menu. We believe, I believe, as do many others, that a properly executed menu is one process, but it involves 2 pages, as does our American Guardian Group of Companies AGWS menu. It's one process, it's 2 pages. We have a presentation page that lists the optional voluntary protection products, and then we also have a selected decline page that the customer signs. The numbers on that page from a cost standpoint of products agree exactly with what's on the retail installment sale contract or the consumer lease agreement. They sign it, a copy is given to the customer, a copy goes in the deal jacket for disclosure purposes and regulatory considerations in case we're ever challenged, that the customer knew exactly what was sold and how it's done. So the properly executed menu, I think, does 4 things. Number 1, it affirms the agreement in sales. It affirms the agreement in sales from a base payment standpoint as the payment is initialed by the customer. A lot of stores around the country are having that payment initialed, a lot are not. But for more protection to yourself, talk to your attorney, talk to your house counsel, and why not have that base payment initial? Unless, of course, you're saying to yourself, I'm not going to show the customer the base payment. And then that's another topic altogether, but I would talk with your attorney or house counsel about that as well. It affirms the agreements and sales from a base payment standpoint as the payment is initialed by the customer. Number two, and that's on the presentation page, number two is also on the presentation page. It discloses that the products offered and selected are optional. They're not a requirement, they're not a condition of financing, they're optional. Numbers 3 and 4 are on the selected decline page. Number 3, it discloses the base and final payment on the selected and decline page. We call that sometimes the payment walk or the payment trail. How did that base payment of $450 become for a while $475, $500, and now the final payment selected was $525 with the 2, 3, or 4 optional voluntary protection products. So number 3 discloses the base payment and final payment selected on the select decline page. And last but certainly not least, number 4, we just mentioned, it discloses the prices. It discloses the prices of selected products and the terms agree with the retail installment sale contract or consumer lease agreement. So if we think about this menu as the most important piece of paper or digital document in a deal file, okay, it confirms the dealership was transparent during the sale of F&I products. My good friend Gil Danover, he talks about it in his workshops. That's mentioned in his book, Automotive Compliance in a Digital World. And, he shares with us, if you need to, if you have to, if you can lay these 2 pages, a properly executed menu, in front of a regulator, a consumer group, the FTC, the CFPB, or Attorney General, think about what that's going to help you do. It's going to help you confirm and hopefully prove that transparency reigns throughout your process, meaning no payment packing, no product packing, no tie-in sales, and it also reinforces the fact truly that a properly executed menu truly is both a sales and a compliance tool. I want to turn this back now to John Friedland to wrap this up for us. Thank you to Dave Robertson, even though we couldn't hear him very well up front, but also talk about our next 2 training events, our 4-day workshop with Chuck, myself, and others, and then also our first webinar of 2020. John Friedland.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Dave. Yes, the next class will be, or the sales workshop, will be November 18th through the 21st. And then our webinar series will begin next year, January 8th at 1 p.m. Central Time. For the year 2020, we will be having those every month. So it'll be the second Wednesday of every month for the year of 2020. Thank you very much for joining us. This will be available via recording. If you have any questions or comments on the presentation today, you can email bharkins@agwsinc.com. Thank you very much for attending. Have a good day.